Ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay. Hello again.
No, I'm not ready. I was just making a weird face.
Hello friends, do you remember Brian? This is Brian, and
Hey.
Today we are going to talk about queerness and faith. So I asked you guys what some of the most common questions are that you hear either about the intersections of being LGBT and religious, what it's like to be an LGBT religious person or not, and in addition to being one of my favorite people in the world, Brian knows a lot about that.
So I grew up going to an evangelical Christian church, and around high school started figuring out that maybe I liked boys, and maybe my church didn't like that, and was like, I can't deal with this, I'll deal with it later. Came out in college, and spent most of college trying to sort of figure out like how to be an evangelical Christian and how to be gay, if that was possible, if that's what I wanted for myself. Graduated from college and did this 2-month cross-country social justice project called the Equality Ride, where we visited colleges and universities that discriminated against LGBT people to say, like, this is problematic. And today I am one half of the team behind Griffinology.com. It's resources and support a community for LGBT Christians and supporters from an explicitly and unapologetically queer perspective.
In the entire world, you often see this like dichotomy of religious people and queer people being pinned up against each other as enemies. Christianity as an entire like institution has been the cause behind a lot of oppression of queer people and a lot of other groups, right? So that doesn't mean that Christianity has to be inherently homophobic. It also doesn't mean that it's inherently perfect. There are LGBT people of faith, as Brian was just saying, like obviously they're out there, and we want to make sure that we don't lock those people out when we talk about the oppressive forces of Christianity and other religions.
And for many people, Christianity and their Christian faith is a source of like inspiration for organizing and for liberation. You know, lots of stuff happens out of churches.
So we're obviously talking primarily about Christianity because that's where most of our expertise lies. There's a lot to talk about in other religions, and there's, you know, queer organizing and also problems with queer communities and other religions happening too. We're sticking mostly to these because it's what we know best, but I do have some resources below on other faith communities that are helpful and supportive of LGBT people. Let's go. Questions. I'm super into note cards lately. There's been a lot of note cards in recent videos.
I love it.
So what is it first like entering the queer community as a religious person? Do you feel isolated?
Many people sometimes do feel isolated. I felt sort of a bit of uncertainty as to sort of like, where do I fit? But I will say that it is way harder to be an LGBT, for me, it was way harder for me to be an LGBT person in Christian spaces than it was for me to be a Christian person in LGBT spaces. Like, certainly there was some sort of like, I don't really get that, or like, they think we're sinful, like, why do you be a part of that? But there wasn't sort of like a systemic, it's like structural discrimination against me, like working to take away my rights. When Christians say that, or in Christian spaces, there's just sort of like, this is the fate of your like eternal soul because you're gay. Like, you're gonna go to hell for it, whereas in gay circles, if they're not supportive of like Christianity, they're like, I don't really get that. You know, it's like, It's just not the same magnitude.
How do I respond to love the sinner, hate the sin language?
Oh, I just hate that so much. You like,
I don't know what that means.
yeah,
Cool.
I just want to turn it around and be like, I'll still love you while I hate your sin of being like an oppressive, discriminatory bigot. Like, I don't think that you can love me if you think that this like intrinsic part of who I am and like how I form love and relationships and family and community is like sinful and sick and deranged. Like, that's not love.
What that reminds me of is people who are behind the ex-gay therapy movement and who are very into like, you can change or convert, or like, it's okay to be gay as long as you never act on it. Because a lot of those, and again, these are like really extremist people, they will say, no, I'm doing this because I love you. I want to send you to an abusive therapist who's going to try to pray your gay away because I love you.
Yeah, and the problem is while like the people running those institutions are really extremists, that like trickles down into like really well-meaning, not extremist, like kind-hearted people saying and doing really messed up things because like that's what, like, they've been told that this is love, and it's like, you're such a like normal, caring person, why are you acting so like callously and clearly uncaringly? Well, it's because like someone somewhere said love the sinner, hate the sin means like kick your cat out of the house.
Okay, following up to that, does the Bible ever actually say that being not straight is a sin?
I mean, the Bible says lots of things, right? So there's what's known as like these clobber passages, which are often used to say that homosexuality is a sin. So it's like the story of Adam and Eve and the story of Sodom and Gomorrah and Leviticus. It also like says that, you know, if a child curses their parent, they should be put to death, right? And like you can't eat shellfish. And so like the Bible says a myriad of things. There's a passage in the New Testament, in the Christian Bible, that talks about like women remaining silent at church, but elsewhere in the Christian Bible, it talks about like praising these like women church leaders and deacons and bishops. Homosexuality or being transgender didn't exist, wasn't understood in the same way that it was. So it's never really addressed head on. Rather than asking like, does the Bible say it's a sin? You can say like, well, what does the Bible teach us about love and relationships and also gender? There's lots of like really cool instances of like gender transgressions where people defying gender expectations, gender roles. Deborah was sort of like a priest and a ruler. There's like the eunuchs, some of which were forced to be eunuchs, but some of which chose to be eunuchs. There's this whole bit about my friend Peterson Toscano does this whole bit about Joseph and his he calls it a princess dress. His, you know, we hear multicolored dress, but perhaps it was a princess dress. And so like, what's really going on there? And so I think that in lots of ways the Bible is already queer, and more broadly, the thrust of both the Hebrew and Christian Bibles is liberation and God being on the side of the oppressed and working for justice. And we see that, you know, from beginning to end. So I think that you can certainly draw strength from the Bible in these liberation movements.
He's so smart. Was there really a gay couple in the Bible, or multiple gay couples?
Oh, so there are some people that think that perhaps David and Jonathan were gay lovers, or that Ruth and Naomi were gay lesbian lovers. One of them says about the other, like, I love him more than like a woman or something, like my love for him surpasses that of a woman. And so there was clearly something special going on between the two of them, but again, like, we don't conceive of the way, they didn't conceive of like being gay in the same way that we do now, or even like 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. Were they gay? Like, I don't know, like, were they having sex? Like, I don't know. If you read the Bible and you see that in them and that gives you comfort, like, that's awesome. Go for it, embrace that. There's a fair amount of like poetry and art out there that sort of is inspired by that. There's also people that think Jesus was perhaps gay, so like if that resonates with you, that's awesome. Is it definitive that that is the case? No, probably not, but not many things about the Bible are definitive.
Right.
You know, and there were 12 disciples, like statistically, probably one of them was a no, right? Like,
right.
So, I mean, who knows? That was long, sorry.
That was long. I might have to cut pieces of it out, but I'll try to keep it as much as possible.